Hello and welcome to the Brazilian BA guest. Today, my guest is none less than Keith Ellis, the executive responsible for growth of the International Institute of Business Analysis. Hello, Keith. Thank you for coming.
Fabricio, thank you so much for the invitation to speak with your team today. I appreciate it a lot.
It's my pleasure. And I have a question for you today. And the question is about the future. How is business analysis evolving?
You know, it's a great question. And so to me, I think you need to think of it as breadth and depth. You know, you have to think about it as the business analysis is being applied into so many more things today, whether it be data or as a product owner or as an agile context. In agile, it's even in agile in enterprise. But it's also depth, right? Do I have more and more skills to apply it into many more different contexts to organization? Can I apply it inside project, which is where people used to think of business analysis, inside project? But I think you're seeing greater and greater demand for this skill outside of project, right? Where it's the operations of the business and being applied outside project. And so if you look at the evolution, you see things like LinkedIn, where LinkedIn Learning, one of the top skills right now on LinkedIn, number 6, right, on LinkedIn, is business analysis. And the people buying that training and those courses, they're not your traditional business analysts. They're people who are coming in wanting to understand how processes change, wanting to understand the skills of business analysts and being able to apply them to their own profession. And so I see it as, we can't think of business analyst as a role. We have to think of business analysis as a profession, but we need to think beyond that to business analysis as a skill that powers many different types of layers inside a business.
That's fantastic. You know, I do have a course online, and I'm probably merchandising myself here right now, but something interesting is that it's a course about business analysis using the BA book guide as a basis. And I do have some students that are lawyers, they are medical doctors, and they are so glad to be able to understand business and to understand needs and consider different alternatives to apply that. And my question for you today is, how is IIBA working to reach this huge, this greater audience?
Well, it's an interesting question because, you know, when we think back even 2 years ago, we didn't have a chief marketing officer. You know, we didn't have a lot of the capacity to go at and really centralize some of the messaging and refine and improve some of that. And so that's a significant investment that we've made in the last period of time, as well as, you know, this year investing in our connections with Susan, who was just recently brought into our organization, and trying to say, well, how can we orchestrate people who are not necessarily directly connected to the chapter? But we need to look beyond that, right? So when you sit back and you say, well, last year IIBA connected with IEEE to do a certification around cybersecurity, Agile Alliance, right, in the Agile space in the last couple of years. And so you'll see, I think, this movement outside of the business analysis, which you might think of as traditional business analysis space, that's been happening over the last couple of years, and combine that with a much, much more powerful marketing engine that's sitting in behind it. And then people like me, right, I'm new into the organization. I'm here 3 months, right? You know, as Chief Engagement and Growth Officer to look at things like this. Well, what are we doing in our business and alliances structure and some things like that? And we've got a long way to go. You know, there's a lot of things that we could be considering down this path and you know, in terms of working with other organizations.
Let me ask you about a challenge I see in your position. As you said, business analysis is growing horizontally because it's reaching more professionals than the original, let's say, system analyst, where it became like requirements engineers or usually most part of BAs I know in organizations came from this area. It's taking a lot of more areas, and it's taking deeper and deeper into different knowledge areas, like you mentioned it, cybersecurity, data analytics, and other stuff. it may embrace the world. So there's an issue, that there's a challenge for IIBA and for all of us that are in business analysis. How can we focus if business analysis is getting so big? Will the BA Book Guide version 4 have 2,000 pages? How is that going to be?
That's a great question. So first of all, separate out the certification and the application of the knowledge, right? Because you've got the certification, which needs to stay fundamentally the same. It's people understanding what they need to know as a business analysis profession. And then it's the application of that knowledge to different kinds of professionals or communities or different areas, right? And those are two completely different things. Like you look at HR, they've got a fundamental definition of world. If you look at the sales community and you say, what's the number one thing that a salesperson needs to understand? Business need. Well, what do we do? Business need, right? So there's different layers to this thing in terms of, how you might approach it, from a profession perspective. But the certifications are the certifications, like it have to be very standardized. You have to move them very slowly. You can't overnight make these monstrous shifts in terms of the structure of things like that. And I think you have to be just very mindful in your approach on something like that. But I think from a professional standpoint, what could we see at a chapter, right? Could we see more people at a chapter who are interested in how do I better understand and change business? Absolutely. Could we see greater engagement in different types of professionals at the chapter level? Absolutely. Could the Brazilian BA talk to other types of professions and say, how do we help instantiate change and help you achieve your business goals? Absolutely. Just like years ago, we saw a lot of shift in IT spending move into the marketing space, right? And be actually governed by the marketing people. These shifts in business happen, right? In terms of, where the focus is going. Today's business is much flatter. It moves much faster. It needs to respond to change far faster than in the past. And business analysis is now becoming much more ingrained in many other professions because of that, right? The understanding of how to look at process, how to change process, how to articulate needs in a much clearer way, and how to communicate much more objectively are really part of our profession. And they need to be part of many professions.
Let me ask you a final question. I wanted that you put some guidance for those who are watching us now and they are at the beginning of their career and they are thinking that business analysis may be something interesting, and should they study this, and how could they become more profound or more knowledgeable into business analysis?
Sure. So there's 2 or 3 things I would promote, right? So first of all, stop thinking the grass is greener somewhere else by not being a business analyst. Being a business analyst pays you a whole lot more money than most professions, like a lot more money. It's also one of the most in-demand skills in the world right now. When you look at, there are 10 million business analysts worldwide, there are 5 million senior business analysts, there's 24 million people who say business analysis is fundamental to what I do as a profession. So it takes you many places. So as a core profession, this profession took me into being a COO, Chief Operating Officer, and took me into being a CEO, right? Because the board looked at my skills and said, this guy really understands how to manage and change process. And that's always been fundamental to my career. Within the career itself, you need to take accountability for yourself. You need to take accountability for your own learning and your own network. And that starts with getting engaged at the chapter level, making sure that you connect with that community. Like, you've got an amazing chapter, right, in Brazil. You've got 60 people that come out to those events, right? And some number of those are recruiters, and some number of those are people who are looking for BAs, and some number of those people can deliver skills. And many of those events, you've got them going on weekly, help people to build skills. So become part of the network. Become impassioned as a business analysis profession to talk up what it is that you deliver to the organization, but also get certified, right? So that you're stabilizing and standardizing what it means to be this profession, and be loud and proud about that certification. So that as you're growing up through the profession, you're bringing others toward that certification as well. And that's what creates that whole value in the community, people who are well-trained, well-networked, well-connected to other people who also can help them advance their career, but also value the profession that they're in.
Those are very good tips. I love it. And I will put the link for our Brazilian IIBA chapter here below this video for anyone who wants to join us. And I know this video is going to be watched not just in Brazil, but in other countries as well. And you should look for the chapter close to you. Join IIBA. This is a great association. I'm honored to be part of it as the Brazilian chapter president. And Keith, thank you very much for coming today. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Fabricio, you've got an amazing community. I am delighted to support you and be part of it. The number of YouTube followers that you've got going on and the business that you're doing in Brazil is just fantastic. I love you for it. And thank you so much to you and all of the volunteers for supporting IIBA. You've just been a wonderful, fantastic person to be working with.
It was a pleasure.